Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, I make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week, and if you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. Today I'll be teaching how to make an off-the-shoulder peplum top. This whimsy affair has it all: luscious balloon sleeves, a dainty peplum, and a neckline that can be worn on or off the shoulders to suit any occasion. Speaking of, if you're looking to craft a masterpiece for your next shindig, you're in the right place. We've got hundreds of modern crochet patterns with many more coming on the way, so consider clicking the bell to subscribe and you'll never miss an upload. Also, do me a huge favor and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to show support so I can keep putting out free tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Now it's time to get on with the show, so without further ado. For this project, any category 4 yarn will work, but I used a total of 950 grams of yarn, and that's 1,200 yards if you're stateside. As for tools, a 5 and 6mm hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 Bliss order, and enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us if you were able to open a restaurant, what kind of food would you serve? I'd like to open a restaurant that features comfort food from around the world. Details from the giveaway down below. We're using 4 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows: chain, slip stitch, single crochet, double crochet, and extended half double crochet. This tutorial is for size small, but you can adjust it for your size, and we explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this top started, we are all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Next, we're all going to grab our 5mm hook and start off by making a chain that's in multiples of 3, the height that we'd like for our shoulder band to be. I'd like for mine to be just about 2 inches or 5 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 9. Now that we have our chain, we're going to block off that last chain and do a chain 3. That chain 3 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain, and now we're going to get started on a double crochet row. Yarn over, insert your hook into that chain that we blocked off, or the 4th chain from our hook, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Again, yarn over, into that following chain, pull through 2, pull through 2. Put 1 double crochet into every chain. We've put 1 double crochet into every chain. Now our following row is going to be a back loop slip stitch row. Chain 1, that still doesn't count as a stitch, and flip our work. To do our first back loop slip stitch, find the last stitch from our previous row, insert into that back loop, or the loop that's furthest away from us, pull through everything. Again, into that following stitch's back loop, pull through everything, continue putting 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. And a quick tip, don't tug too tightly after every stitch, otherwise the following row could be a little too tight to work into. Our row 2 is finished. Our row sequence is going to be a back loop double crochet and back loop slip stitch row, so let's get started on our back loop double crochet row. Start by doing a chain 3 and flip your work. Yarn over, find the last stitch from our previous row, insert your hook into that back loop, and double crochet per usual. Continue putting 1 back loop double crochet into every stitch. Our row 3 is finished. Now getting started on our back loop slip stitch row, we're going to chain 1, flip our work, and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. We are going to continue to repeat these 2 rows until we get a shoulder band that can stretch around the widest part of our shoulders, making sure that we end on an even number of row sets And our last row is going to be a back loop double crochet row. Now let me show you guys what a row set is. I already have my shoulder band finished, so let's see what it looks like. This is my shoulder band. I have a total of 93 rows. My length is 31 inches or 78 centimeters unstretched. Now how to figure out how many row sets we have. A row set is going to be counting our double crochet and our slip stitch row as one set. So as an example, I had a total of 93 individual rows, but if we count just our sets, so as an example, I have one set, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so on and so forth. I have a total of 46 sets plus one additional double crochet row. Now we want to make sure that that number of sets that we have is an even number because we need an even number of single crochets once we seam everything together. Get yours finished up and then we can get started with seaming our band and the front panel together. Now that our band is finished, we can get started with seaming it together. So this portion is just going to be how we're going to place it down before we start seaming. So this is going to be the same for everyone, no matter what size you're making. So place your band down, making sure that the ribbing that we have is placed down. And then the working yarn is along the right side. From here, take both ends and bring them together, forming a circle. Take the bottom corners, so the corners that's nearest to you, we're going to pinch them together, placing the working yarn on top. We're going to take the top panel's corner stitch and place it along the edge of our band, forming somewhat of a V, and then we're going to flip our work so that the point is facing away from us. And from here, insert your hook into that corner stitch of the back panel of our shoulder band, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure, and insert a stitch marker into that chain so we know that that's a chain, not a stitch. From here, we're going to be sandwiching our top panel on top of our back panel and single crocheting across both. So for this, we're going to be putting 2 single crochets into every side double and 1 single crochet into every side slip stitch row, and that's going to be along the top panel, and then along the back, just 1 single crochet into every stitch. So let's get that started. Our first side row should be a side double crochet row. So we're going to find that top loop, insert our hook in through there, and find the first stitch within the back panel, insert our hook in through there as well, and then if you'd like to weave in your tail ends, place that over our hook, and single crochet them together. We're going to be putting 1 more single crochet into that same double crochet, insert your hook in through that same top loop, find the next stitch within the back panel, and single crochet them together. Now our following side row is a side slip stitch row. Find that top loop within that side slip stitch row, find that following stitch within the back panel, insert your hook into that stitch, and then single crochet. We're going to continue to do this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into within the back panel, and as a quick tip, we should have the same amount of chains that we made when we started off our shoulder band. Our last side row that we should have worked into should have been our side slip stitch row. I don't have any more stitches left to work into within the back panel, so from here we're going to continue to put 2 single crochets into every side double and 1 single crochet into every side slip stitch row, making our way around. Once we reach the same amount of side rows that we need to work into along the back panel, I will meet you back to show you how we're going to seam this portion. So to know how many rows to come back to, count the rows that we just did. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows taken up. So taking a look at my back panel, I will meet you back when I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. That 6th row should be a side slip stitch row. I've single crocheted my way all the way around. Now I'm going to finish off this by seaming our front and back panel for our shoulder band. So let's get started. Insert your hook into the front panel's corner stitch, and then into the back panel. Our first side row should be a side slip stitch row, and this is mine right here. I'm going to find that top loop, insert my hook, and then single crochet once. And now that they're connected, we're going to continue to put 2 single crochets into every side double, 1 single crochet into every side slip stitch row with putting 1 single crochet into every stitch. So into that next stitch into the front panel, insert your hook. Find the next side double crochet row within the back panel, insert in through that top loop, single crochet once, and then just to do the next one, find the next stitch into the front panel, same side double crochet row within the back panel, and single crochet. Continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into, and then slip stitch into that chain space. Now that we've slip stitched into that chain space, I did do a chain up of 1 and cut. Now we're going to need to separate our front and back panel. So start by taking the total amount of single crochets that we had, making our way all the way around. Should be an even number. Mine was 140. We're going to take our number, split that in half. So 140 split in half is 70. And then from there, we're going to take that number and then split that in half. So half of 70 is 35. Counting from my middle stitches, I'm going to count up 35 because that's the number that I had. Insert my stitch marker into that stitch and into the stitch right after as well because we should have 2 middle stitches. I did the same thing on the other side, and just to double check, from these 2 stitch marker stitches to my point, I should have a total of 70 stitches for me, which is half of the amount of single crochets that I have. And then from the second stitch marker, counting all the way around towards the back, we should have the same amount, so 70 for me as well. We want to make sure that the front and back panel are even. Once we have this, we're going to get started on our front panel. So getting started on the front panel, we're all going to grab our same category 4 yarn, make a slip knot, and now insert our 6mm hook, and start by making a chain that reaches from the top of our shoulder down to our waist. I need a total of 9 inches or 22 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain of 35. Now that we have our chain, we're going to do our first row, which is going to be an extended half double crochet row. So block off that last chain and do a chain 3. That chain 3 doesn't count as a stitch, that's just our turning chain. From here, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into that chain that we blocked off, or the 4th chain from our hook. Yarn over, and pull through. From here, we're going to yarn over, pull through the first loop, for a total of 3 loops on our hook. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through all 3. That is our extended half double crochet. Let's do this again. Yarn over, into that following chain, pull through. Pull that first loop, yarn over, pull under that first loop, yarn over, pull through those 3 loops. Continue putting 1 extended half double crochet into every chain. Our first row is finished. All of our rows from here are going to be more extended half double crochet rows, but now within the back loop. So to get that started, we're going to chain 3 and flip our work. To do the first one, yarn over, find the last stitch from our previous row, insert our hook in through that back loop, pull through into our extended half double crochet per usual. Yarn over, pull through the first loop, yarn over, pull through the following 3 loops. Continue putting 1 back loop extended half double crochet into every stitch. This is going to be the shoulder portion, so we will not have any increases or decreases. Continue doing this until we have a shoulder portion that reaches from the tip of our shoulder to the base of our neck. I'll meet you back right after an even number row. My shoulder is finished. I have a total of 6 rows. My width is 3 inches or 8 centimeters. And now we're going to connect it to our shoulder band, so let's reintroduce that. Taking a look at our shoulder band, we're going to insert our hook into the stitch marker stitch that we have along the side that's nearest to the point. Inserting our hook into that stitch, going to insert, yarn over, pull through everything on our hook, and now our shoulder portion should be connected. We're going to slip stitch up that following stitch into the base, working our way towards our point to get started on the following row. So flip your work, find the next stitch in our base, This is mine right here. I'm going to insert, yarn over, pull through everything, and flip our work again. And now we're going to be working down our shoulder. We're going to be putting one back loop extended half double crochet into every stitch, so pretty simple. At the end of the row, chain 3, flip our work, one back loop extended half double crochet into every stitch again, and I'll meet you back to connect it into the base. We've made our way back up with our extended half double crochet row. Now we're going to connect it into the base. When we're connecting it into the base, we're going to want to count up the next 2 available stitches. Here's 1, here's 2. We're counting up 2 so they can match the same height. Into that second stitch, insert your hook with a slip stitch to close off that row. And to work our way up to the following row, we're going to be slip stitching up the following 2 stitches as well to match the same height as our extended half double crochets. So there's 1. In that following stitch, there's 2. That's just connecting it into the base, and flip your work. Just to do the following row, yarn over, find the last stitch from our previous row, insert into that back loop, pull through with your first back loop extended half double crochet, and then that's it. Continue to repeat our 2 previous rows, so a back loop extended half double crochet with no increases and no decreases, connecting it into the base the same way that we just did, and I will meet you back right on the second to last row before we meet our middle stitch marker stitch. Okay, so I worked my way all the way down until my middle stitch marker stitch is almost reached. I stopped at the row right before we work into that stitch. And all we're going to do to combat this peak is do a decrease of 3 along this end, and then into the following row do an increase of 3. And we're doing it just for these 2 rows so that we don't have a buckle when we wear it. So I ended along the bottom. I'm going to work my way up with my back loop extended half double crochets until I have 3 stitches right before my base. If you're within the base, slip stitch up the following 2 stitches the same way that we would, flip your work, and then in the next clip we're going to do our decrease of 3 together. So to do our decrease of 3, we're going to yarn over, insert your hook into that following back loop, pull through, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. Let's do that again. Yarn over into that following stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and then once more. Yarn over into that following stitch, pull through 2. When we have those 4 loops on our hook, we're going to yarn over, pull through all 4. We're doing our decrease this way so that we don't have a big gap on either side of our stitches. It still kind of looks like 3 extended half double crochets. Now since I'm along the base, I'm going to slip stitch it into the base. So here's my following stitch, and then this is my second stitch right over here. Quick tip, this stitch right here may look like an extra stitch, but that's actually the slip stitch that we did when we connected our single crochet row, so make sure you're not working into that. I'm going to insert my hook into that following stitch to connect this row. If you are working your way down, put 1 back loop extended half double crochet into every stitch, chain 3, flip our work, and then put 1 back loop extended half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last one. And then we can do our increase of 3 together. For those of us that have ended along the base, slip stitch into the following 2 stitches into the base, so per usual, and flip your work. To do our increase, that's fairly simple. We're going to yarn over, into the last stitch from our previous row, insert into that back loop with 1 extended half double, into that same back loop with 2 extended half double, and then into that same back loop with 3 extended half double. And then from here, put 1 back loop extended half double crochet into every stitch. Our following rows are going to be exactly the same as the other ones, so 1 back loop extended half double crochet into every stitch, the same way that we have been doing this entire time. I will meet you back when we reach our following stitch marker stitch. We've made our way across with our front panel, all the way over to our following stitch marker stitch. What we're going to do from here is the shoulder. So all we're going to do, no matter if we're along the bottom or the top, is chain 3, flip our work, and then put 1 back loop extended half double crochet into every stitch for the same amount of shoulder rows that we started this piece off with. I had a total of 6, so I will be doing an additional 6 rows off of this and then do a chain of 1 and cut. There will be no increases and no decreases, so go ahead and get this done and then I'll meet you back. The entirety of my front panel is all finished. After my last row, I did do a chain up of 1 and cut, and now we're going to repeat the entirety of our front panel along the back, minus our decrease and increase row, because obviously we don't have a point in the back. So as a really quick refresher, we're going to start by making the same chain that we made when we started our shoulder, and then we're going to make the same amount of back loop extended half double crochet rows. Slip stitch it into that following stitch marker stitch that we have, and then working along the back, just do our extended back loop half double crochet rows, connecting it the same way that we did the front panel. The back panel isn't going to have any increases or decreases, so just work your way all the way across, include that second shoulder portion, and then do a chain up of 1 and cut, and I'll meet you back. Our back panel is finished. Now let's seam our front and back panel together, starting with our shoulder. Let's all start by making sure that our work is flipped wrong side out, because this is going to be a single crochet seam. And then we're going to insert our 6mm hook into the 2 stitches that we have into the shoulder band that the front and the back panel are coming out of, or our 2 stitch marker stitches. Insert your yarn onto your hook and pull through. Do a chain up of 1 to secure. Now we're going to be putting 2 single crochets into every side row, working in through both the front and the back panel. Finding my first side row, I'm going to insert my hook in through that top loop. Into my back panel, I'm going to find that top loop into there as well. I'm going to weave in my tail end, so I'm going to place that over my hook and then do 1 single crochet. Let's do another single crochet. We're putting 2 single crochets into every side row. So into that same side row within the front panel, same side row within the back panel. It should be a little bit easier since they should be gathered, and then single crochet. Continue putting 2 single crochet into every side row, making our way all the way down. When we don't have any more stitches left, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat on the other side. Our shoulders are seamed. Now let's seam our side. Making sure that our work is still flipped wrong side out, we're going to insert our stitch marker into any even numbered stitch from the top where we want our sleeve to start. This is going to be a balloon sleeve, so I wanted mine to be a little bit wider. So I've inserted my stitch marker into the 24th stitch from the top, and that's 6.5 inches or about 17 centimeters. Now we're going to insert our hook into the bottom corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure. And now we're going to do a single crochet seam till we reach our stitch marker stitch. Start by finding that first stitch into the front panel, insert your hook, next stitch into the back panel, insert your hook, and if you'd like to weave in your tail ends, place them over your hook and then single crochet. Let's do this again. Into the following stitch into the front panel, insert, into the following stitch into the back panel, insert, and then single crochet. And continue this until we reach our stitch marker. When we do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat on the other side. Now that everything is seamed together, we can get started on our waistband. So start off by making sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, and then we're going to be inserting our 5mm hook into any one of the side rows we have along the bottom. Insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure. We're going to be putting 1 single crochet into every side row. So start by finding our first side row, insert your hook in through that top loop, and then single crochet. Let's do one more. On the following side row, insert in through that top loop, and single. Continue putting 1 single into every side row. Slip stitch into that chain space. Before we get started on the length of our waistband, we're going to want to try on this piece because this single crochet row is going to be as wide as this can stretch. If it's a little too tight, reduce some stitches with a looser grip, or if it's a little too loose, reduce some stitches with a tighter grip. But now that our single crochet row is finished, we're all going to make a chain the length that we'd like for our waistband to be. I'd like for mine to be just about 1 inch or 2 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 6. Now that we have our chain, we're going to do a slip stitch row. Block off that last chain and do a chain 1. Into that chain that we blocked off with the second chain from our hook, insert your hook with a slip stitch, so just yarn over, pull through everything. Again, into that following chain, insert your hook, yarn over, and gently pull through everything. Continue putting 1 slip stitch into every chain, and keeping in mind not to tug too tightly because the following row may be a little too tight to work into. Now that we're at the base, we're going to slip stitch it to connect it. Find that next available stitch into the base, insert your hook with a slip stitch. That's not a stitch, that's just to connect our slip stitch row to the base. And we need to work our way up to the following row, so slip stitch into that following stitch into the base. Also doesn't count as a stitch, and flip our work. And from here on out, they're going to be back loop slip stitch rows. So finding that last stitch from our previous row, we're going to insert in through that back loop, yarn over, pull through everything. Let's do that again into that following stitch's back loop, insert, pull through everything, and continue to put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. At the end of the row, chain 1, flip our work, put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch again, and I'll meet you back at the base. We've worked our way down to the base, and we're going to connect it once more. Finding that next stitch into the base, insert, pull through everything to connect our row 3, and then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that following stitch, flip our work, and then put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. Continue repeating our 2 previous rows, so our back loop slip stitch rows with no increases and no decreases until we don't have any more stitches left to work into the base. My waistband is nearly complete. Now we're going to seam it all together. So start by inserting your hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel, making sure that our work is flipped right side out. We're going to yarn over and pull through everything, and we're going to do an outside loop slip stitch seam. So start by finding that first stitch into the front panel, and we're going to insert our hook only into that front loop. We're going to find that next stitch into the back panel, insert our hook only into that back loop. When we have those 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3. Let's do one more. Into that following stitch into the front panel, insert into that front loop. Following stitch into the back panel, insert into that back loop, pull through all 3. Continue this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into, then do a chain up of 1 and cut. Now that our waistband is seamed, we're going to get started on the bottom. We're going to have to single crochet along the bottom of our waistband. So inserting your 5mm hook into any one of the side rows along the bottom of our waistband, insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure. We're going to put 1 single crochet into every side row. So start by finding that first side row, mine is this raised row, insert your hook into that top loop with a single crochet. Into that following side row, find that top loop and single crochet once again, and then that's it. We're going to continue doing this, making our way all the way around, and then slip stitch into that chain space. Our single crochet row along the bottom of our waistband is finished. Now we're going to switch back out to our 6mm hook and start off by making a chain the length that we'd like for our peplum portion to be, so you can make this long or short. I'd like for mine to be just about 7 inches or 18 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain of 25. Now that we have our chain, we're going to do our extended half double crochet back. Block off that last chain, do a chain 3. Just to do the first one, yarn over, insert your hook into that chain that we blocked off or the 4th chain from our hook, pull through, yarn over, pull through the first loop, yarn over, pull through the following 3 loops. I'll meet you back at the base. Our first extended half double crochet row is finished. Now we need to connect it into the base. Since we want our peplum to ruffle up a little bit, we aren't going to be counting up the next 2 stitches. We're just going to find that following stitch into the base and slip stitch it into there. Now our first row is complete. To work our way up to the following row, we're going to find that next stitch into the base, slip stitch into there, and then just flip our work. From here, put one back loop extended half double crochet into every stitch. At the end of the row, chain 3, flip our work, put one back loop extended half double crochet into every stitch, and I'll meet you back at the base. I've worked my way up and my row 3 is nearly finished. Now I need to connect it. Like I said, we need a really good ruffle for the peplum, so how we're going to connect this is we're going to insert our hook into that same stitch that our previous row is worked into. As you can see, this stitch is worked into. That's the stitch that we're going to connect our odd number row into. So insert, pull through everything on our hook. And just to work our way up to the following row, same as the last one, find that next stitch into the base, slip stitch into there, flip our work, and then repeat. Continue putting one back loop extended half double crochet into every stitch, connecting it into the base the same way that we just did, with no increases and no decreases. I'll meet you back when we don't have any more stitches left to work into so that we can seam it together. We've made our way all the way around with our peplum. We don't have any more stitches left to work into, so now we're going to seam it together. This is going to be a single crochet seam, so make sure the work is flipped wrong side out. Since we already know how to do the seam, let's just do the first one. Insert your hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Yarn over, pull through everything. And to do the first seam, find that first stitch from the front panel, insert your hook, first stitch from the back panel, insert your hook, and single crochet them together. And continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into, and then do a chain up of 1 and cut. Now getting started on our sleeve, we're all going to make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, and then we're going to insert our 6mm hook into the stitch that we have that's nearest to our side seam. Next, we're going to make a chain the length that we'd like for our sleeve to be, so long or short. I want mine to be about 13 inches or 33 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain of 45. Now that we have our chain, we're going to do our extended half double crochet row back. So block off that last chain, do a chain 3. That chain 3 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. And then into that chain that we blocked off, or the 4th chain from our hook, insert with our first extended half double crochet, and continue putting 1 into every chain. Now that we've put 1 extended half double crochet into every chain, we're going to connect it into the base. So what we're going to do is find that first stitch into the base, slip stitch into there to close off this first row. Next, we're going to insert our hook into that following stitch into the base, flip our work, and then put 1 back loop extended half double into every stitch. At the end of the row, chain 3, flip our work, put 1 back loop extended half double crochet into every stitch again, and I'll meet you back at the base. I've made my way down and back up with my extended back loop half double crochets. We're going to connect it into the base once more. So find that next available stitch into the base, slip stitch it into there to close off this row. And then find that next stitch into the base, insert your hook in through there with a slip stitch, flip our work, and then repeat. Continue to do our back loop extended half double crochet rows with no increases and no decreases until we don't have any more stitches left to work into the base. I've made my way all the way around with my back loop extended half double crochet rows. Now we're ready to seam it. So first things first, make sure that our work is flipped wrong side out. Find that first stitch into the front panel, insert in through there. Find the first stitch into the back panel, insert in through there, and then single crochet. Continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Now that our sleeve is seamed up, we're ready to get started on the cuff. So first things first, make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, and then we're going to insert our 5mm hook into any one of the side rows along the bottom of our sleeve. We're going to do a single crochet row with some decreases. So we're going to insert our yarn, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure. Now from here, we're going to do a decrease of 2 into the following 2 side rows. So into that next side row, find that top loop, insert your hook, pull through. Find that following side row's top loop, insert, pull through all 3. That's how we do our first decrease. We basically just combined these 2 rows. Let's do the next one. Into that next side row, insert your hook into that top loop, pull through, into that following top loop, pull through all 3. Continue this, making our way all the way around, and then slip stitch into that chain space. And a really quick tip, once when the single crochet row is finished up, this is going to be as wide as this cuff portion can stretch. So if it's a little too tight, reduce some stitches with a looser grip, or if it's too loose, reduce some stitches with a tighter grip. Our single crochet row is finished. We're now going to make a chain the length that we'd like for our cuff to be. I'd like for mine to be about 2 inches or 5 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 10. Our cuff is going to be done exactly the same way as our waistband, so as a refresher, block off that last chain, do a chain 1 to prepare for our slip stitch row. Into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, insert with a slip stitch and put 1 slip stitch into every chain. And now that we're at the base, we're going to connect it the same way that we did our waistband and our sleeve. So find that next stitch into the base, slip stitch to connect this row. And then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that following stitch, flip our work, and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. Continue to repeat our back loop slip stitch rows with no increases and no decreases until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. We've made our way around with our back loop slip stitch rows, and now we're going to seam it together. This seam is going to be the same seam that we did for the waistband, so let's all make sure that our work is flipped right side out. We're going to insert our hook into the corner stitch of the front and the back panel, pull through, and then do a chain up of 1 to secure. Just to do the first one, we're going to find that first available stitch into the front panel and insert only in through that front loop. Into that next stitch into the back panel, insert only into that back loop. When we have those 3 loops, just yarn over, pull through all 3, and continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left. Then repeat everything here on the other side. And now that both of our sleeves are all finished, we are all done. Last thing we're going to have to do is weave in all of our ends. And there you have it. Hope you guys enjoy the tutorial. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch you on the next one. Bye!